Hello, Ashlanders. There's a new podcast in town. It's called The Bad Girl's Guide to Town Government. It's of the people, by the people, and for the people. It's an opportunity for citizens to express themselves and their concerns on their own terms. So for our first show, we have two co-hosts, me, Julie Nardone, and Kate Jurczyk. And we also have a place that we set for Jim Hanna. Jim and I did a cable show called What's Really Going On for 6 years. Jim passed away in 2021, but we wanted to honor him by having a seat for him. Who knows?
So I'm really happy about that, and I also want to thank you to be one of the first co-hosts on the show. What I wanted to say about Jim, when I remember, is that he stood up for things he believed in, and he encouraged others. And I think you'll talk a little bit more later about maybe why the podcast is titled Bad Girl's Guide to Town Government, but I think we know there's a little bit sometimes if you're speaking up to say something that maybe is against what is being presented, it can be perceived that way. And Jim taught us that was okay. And I remember that sometimes if I have to get up at a meeting and say something I think people aren't gonna like, I kind of channel Jim and make it okay. And I really think it's great that you're honoring him that way.
Oh, that's great. And we're very real time here, and I'm fiddling with my my little timer. My little timer is not working for some reason. So we're just gonna have to figure that out. It was working earlier. Okay, so we also want to start with something called Upbeat Corner, something that one of us wants to share that was upbeat in town. Kate, do you want to?
I would, because I think everybody knows we're recording this right after Ashland Day. And Ashland Day is a spectacular event for our community that I believe this was year 39. And the original committee that I think many of those people have been since the very first Ashland Day, we're going to have a pass on it this year for, I think, various reasons. And it's important for our community. And so some people rallied. So a couple people on the select board offered to step up and with some help, school people, and I think that really shows the strength of our community, that we come together when things need to be done. So no disrespect to the original Ashland Day Committee at all. In fact, they get the honor that we care about it so much, we make sure it happens. So it's great for that group of people to step up. It's great for all the organizations and committees that had part of that day, and it was spectacular. So thank you, Ashland.
That's good to hear. All right, so we're going to have three main topics today. The first one is the reason for the podcast, the meaning of the name, and there is a painting. I'm an artist. I did a painting. We will put it on Facebook or wherever we need to put it so people can see it. This is also being filmed as a cable show, so you'll be able to see it on the cable show. And our second topic will be the over-controlled ZBA meeting on September 30th and how that ties into giving people a real voice. And then the third is we are going to talk about how people can be co-hosts, because this is set up so that people can be a co-host for 1, 2 weeks, 3, and then other people can be co-hosts. People can talk about the issue, concern that keeps them up at night. I'm really big on people talking about things that keep them up at night, because they'll be energetic and they'll feel passionate about it. So we're just gonna, it's a conversation, so we'll just go back and forth. All right, so the reason for this podcast, we can both share. I have observed in the past, I think it definitely got worse during COVID. We used to have a local paper with reporters, and the reporters came to the meetings, and they recorded, and then they would interview people, maybe people who work for the town, residents who were in the audience, maybe elected officials, and that stopped. And all we've been having for basically, I would say 4 or 5 years, is very one-sided information.
Yeah, I agree, and I think it's lamenting, the death of the Fourth Estate, the newspapers, and it's unfortunate to have one voice. The one-sided, there's many sides, right? And you're the big proponent of that. I've heard you say there's more than 2 sides. Mm-hmm. And when we're only getting one-sided information, I think that is a problem for democracy. So I think this is a great venue to start having people feel like they can have issues discussed and maybe hear some other opinions.
Yes. And another thing, whenever people do speak up, and I've actually been hearing this for, 20 years, when citizens say things, even if they have the actual documentation, it can be referred to as misinformation. And it's probably not misinformation, if that even exists. When people have different opinions, there's a tendency to label an opinion you don't like misinformation and try to discredit it. So that's another reason we're doing this show, to get the citizens' opinions and facts out there. I do a lot of research. I do public records requests, and I rarely speak without documentation. Someone told me that a long time ago. I actually have heard people who say we're the people spreading misinformation, actually saying things that I know don't align with the documentation. I have more to say on that, but do you want to speak about misinformation?
Well, so how does that tie into the bad girls? Because I think people need to know. We know, but we want that to be sort of, it's right. Sort of,
the bad people.
It's sort of making a joke of that and claiming that, right? That's how I see it, but I might be a little bit off on that interpretation. That we have been labeled bad people for speaking up, right? And I think the bad girls is claiming that we're okay with that. Jim would honor that, right?
Yeah.
Bad girls.
If bad means speaking up
we'll own
and
that. Speaking
your truth, then we are happy to be bad girls. And this is bad girls, bad boys, bad everybody, whatever.
So, can I just read,
sure.
In honor of Jane Goodall, because I came across this quote. It actually doesn't take much to be considered a difficult woman. That's why there are so many of us. And I think that fits perfectly like with someone also that would speak truth.
Yeah. I majored in anthropology, and Jane Goodall was one of the people that we studied a lot. And so it's just really cool to be reconnected with her. So I also want to talk too about our town hall is very self-promotional, group promotional, I don't know what you want to call it. And they're always seem to be posting things and this and that, and people get, even the local paper, the little paper, people get a really heavy dose of what our town hall thinks.
Which is, okay, so we can say, I think there are some positive sides of that.
Okay.
In that people like to be hearing what's going on. So I will say I think there are some positive aspects to that. Instead of being silent, and where I do think things are missing is that it often is simply one-sided, and maybe a citizen's perspective needs to be part of the conversation, which is why I'm excited about this podcast.
Yeah, I mean, we really need it. And I want to talk about, too, a lot of times we're, labeled as misinforming, but trying to get information in this town, even with public records requests, is very difficult. I mean, you've got to be an extremely patient, persistent person. Sometimes you've got to ask for it multiple times. Unfortunately, sometimes you have to go to the state and
So
do a
why
request.
do you think that is? Like, that's interesting, and are we the only town like that? Which doesn't make it right. I think we do need to get to the bottom of that.
Yeah, well, I can't say for sure. I imagine it happens in different towns, the degree to which it happens. I do sometimes, this is really almost pathetic, but I sometimes go to another town to get information from this town because I know it's easier.
Interesting.
I did a public records request recently, and I was told, well, I was given information, but you can't download it. I mean, this happens, I think it happened the last time. You can't download it. It's an Excel spreadsheet. So you've got to go back and then ask again for the real live document to be put up there. So I don't understand
And
that.
some of that may be, so that particular thing I'd say could be technology, and everything changes, and like, okay, now your computer isn't compatible, those could be streamlined though, and saying this is the proper format and protocol to ask for things, right?
Yeah.
So we could ask as citizens saying, what's the best way to facilitate these requests? Making that, so that's an interesting thing. And those maybe are issues to be discussed.
Yeah, I mean, and it does feed into, you need to be persistent.
You need to be persistent. I found that, and I think it almost, I kind of joke around, but maybe that is sort of, that's our training for citizens, be persistent, and maybe
Yeah.
the training is for town hall employees, sort of like, if they're not serious, they go away, and maybe in some way that's an okay way to be. I find that a little hard to believe, but if we get the word out, be persistent, that's okay. We just know that, and we train people. And that's part of Bad Girls Guide to Town Government.
Yeah.
Be persistent would be rule number one.
You know what? We need to start a list of
Yep.
bad girls.
Yep.
So I'm going to say bad girls are persistent.
And I'm going to reiterate, Julie, like, I love that it's bad girls, but we are absolutely all genders here.
Yes, we are all
So
genders.
You do, if you're male, you do have to be a bad girl, just like women often have to go under men, but we
Yeah.
absolutely want
Yeah,
all genders included.
right. I have my own quote. I think you read it. I wrote an essay called You Can Quote Me, and it was about my own quotes being valid. And as I've gone through life, one of my favorite self-quotes is, life is an endurance test.
Yeah.
And I know that, so I take that little quote with me wherever I go. Because if you give up, you lose. And if you just stay the course, even if it takes 3, 4, 5 times longer than you thought it would, you will eventually get where you need to go. Okay, so our next topic is, all right. It was the ZBA meeting on September 30th.
So
Oh,
Board of Appeals.
Yeah, zoning board of appeals. And that was about getting information from DEP and EPA staffers for the mill site in the downtown. And from the beginning, maybe you, Kate, I thought it was a very bizarre setup where the people were not allowed, like in a normal meeting, every other meeting I've been to in 28 years, where you get up to the mic and you ask your question. It was, you had to pre-submit your questions. And that was very strange. So, and then we sent them to the town planner, and then we're supposed to CC the town manager and assistant town manager, something like that. So I felt the meeting was what I call an epic fail.
So now the first part, I hear you, but I think I was not quite as the same mindset. I was like, they're experts, they want these questions to come well prepared. I could sort of get my head around that. Mm-hmm. The epic fail, I 100% agree, because that is not how that meeting rolled. All the questions weren't asked, all the questions weren't answered. The experts that were there said they didn't really have enough time to see the questions. Yeah. I do not know how that happened, and in fact, I brought the piece of paper that was on the chairs at the meeting. I'm not sure if you were, probably you didn't get this if you were watching it remote, but
yeah, you had to be sitting there.
As part of our effort to ensure that today's discussion is thorough, productive, and focused, we previously invited residents to submit their questions and comments in advance. This gave our agency representatives the necessary time to provide thoughtful, informed responses. We appreciate everyone who took the time to submit their feedback and questions ahead of time, and we believe this approach will help ensure a more comprehensive and accurate discussion of the environmental and considerations at hand. So I do not believe that happened. I know I had questions that were not answered. They were a sort of curated version that maybe were covered, and I think there's ways that could have been handled. That I in fact asked that every resident question be available as a handout, and if they were going to bucket and say, I think resident submitted questions 1, 7, and 8 are covered by the way I'm phrasing this, I think that would have potentially been appropriate to manage the meeting. And so you and I have had a conversation. We're left like, are our questions getting answered? When? How? How are we going to know they're answered? And I mean, I know this is going to sound funny, but like I was sitting in that meeting and I thought we were maybe being pranked, but I knew that couldn't be true at a town government meeting.
Oh, but like Alan Funt, wasn't that his name? Alan Funt?
I honestly sat there and I was like, are we being pranked? Like there's this room full of people and all these people online, and nothing that was supposed to happen was happening, and how are we just sitting here?
It was, if you were online or you were in the audience, it was almost surreal to be sitting there, basically, for all intents and purposes, we the people were muzzled. Like, no one could say anything. I couldn't hear anything. I actually had to stand up and say, can people please speak? Because I couldn't, not only was I muzzled, but I couldn't even hear what was being said. And it just felt so utterly undemocratic, because we were invited down under the pretense of it would be transparent, engaging, informative, and I would say it didn't hit any of those things. It was absolutely not engaging. And I don't, this is one of those why with a giant question mark after it. Why would anyone want to run a meeting like that? I mean, I kept hearing, we have to be respectful of people's time. What about our time? I mean, I came down there and I was just, and then that document that you just read from, I've got my own, and, since my questions weren't even remotely broached, so I guess I'm going to take the 2 questions I submitted
Resubmit.
and then resubmit them. And it was a little distressful for me because I wanted an email that was mentioned at a previous ZBA meeting to ask my question. Again, getting the documentation so I'm not misinforming. And what I had to go through, life is an endurance test, part 17, what I had to go through to get that email. So then I do get the email, and it was not easy. And then I formulate this question, and then it doesn't even get asked. And it almost felt like a slap in the face. And I don't know if this sort of meeting attempted again.
Well, am I being ridiculously, hopefully optimistic that we will get answers and this will be corrected? I mean, I do want to hope that the public will get what was promised. And I think possibly the other thing going on is that I remember there was a meeting starting out the ZBA, pre-ZBA, but about the 40B. And I know from coming here as a resident, because we've met a lot of townies, that I said, Nyanza is a wound on our community. And if you forget that, this is what happens. It's not going to go away, and you need to hear from people. You need to hear from people. They need their questions answered. It doesn't matter if you don't think they're important, not you, Julie Nardone, you, anyone.
Right.
The people need to be heard, and they need to have answers, right? On this issue, probably utmost of anything, right, in our town.
Yeah.
So I think that wound is really going to continue a wound anyway, but ignoring it doesn't make it go away. So I was really, really disappointed. I was really, really frustrated. I think anyone we've talked to felt the same.
Yeah.
So I guess I'm so naive that I think it will be corrected.
Well, I don't know. I haven't heard that it's going to be corrected. Maybe it'll be announced, or maybe it has been announced that will be corrected. I feel the only way to really correct it is to hold a real meeting that is transparent, engaging, and informative. And what really concerns me is people talk about engagement all the time, yet the things that one would do if they wanted to engage people are like not being done. They're like doing the opposite. And it's, I don't know. I think bad girls would either set up their own meeting with the EPA, DEP. I did write to the select board after the meeting, and one of my ideas was, to have an actual meeting. And not only that, the people from the state, they came out, they drove all the way out here, and then it was 30 minutes, but the first 10, they were talking about stuff we knew about. And then the consultant of the developer was up there. And I think maybe they tried to answer questions for not even 15 minutes. So they drove all the way out here. We drove down there. People were online. And it's like, I don't know. I think if you have I think our town hall has to care about us, care about what we think. They seem to be care about a lot of people, but not the people that actually live here. So maybe the podcast, people will listen to the podcast and say, hey, let's get a meeting, or we figure out.
So I like that. I mean, bad girls have their own community meetings. And
Oh my God, I love that. And bad girls have their own community meetings.
And I've heard that from lots of people, and that has things have worked, right? I was part of the group that helped start the community garden.
Yep.
Town Hall did not want that community garden. We know that, right? And that's amazing, and it's lasted more than 10 years now, and it's awesome, right? So that's an example.
Yes.
Bad Girls have their own community meetings.
Awesome, yeah. Bad girls are active. They just step up and do what they need to do to get the bad girls get things done.
Yes.
Oh my God, this might turn into a book.
Yes.
Bad girls get things done. I think, well, if you're listening to the podcast, you can't see the painting, but I think it would make an awesome T-shirt, cards, like it was suggested.
Calling cards.
Little calling cards, and it's, I don't know, it's fun. So again, I apologize, my little timer doesn't work.
Yes.
So I think we should move on to number 3.
Mm-hmm.
So number 3 is more information on being a co-host, our contact information. So, as we said earlier, it's called Bad Girls, but it's for everybody. Whatever your gender is. We would like you to think about if you want to join us as a co-host. In the future, we may even have, I think you suggested even having 3 people.
Maybe a format is like a co-host for a couple shows, but you could come back, so it's sort of that rotating, and I think that's a great idea for co-hosts, that you have a way to get a message out. If you want, contact Julie to have your ideas get a voice. I think that's perfect. And say something else about that. No.
One thing I was thinking about too when we were putting this together is that these are opportunities to get up and say what you need to say. I think there's some fear, a lot of people have some fear around that kind of stuff, and I think this would be a good opportunity, which is why I get up at every town meeting, primarily because I can, and it just helps you stay comfortable talking in front of groups of people. I could talk in front of 1 million people. I mean, it wouldn't bother me. I've done karaoke in front of probably 1,000 people. And so you can be a co-host with something that you want to discuss. You know, maybe we can make it happen, maybe not, but at least they'll be out there in the ether. And you can come back. It doesn't have to be a one-time thing. In fact, I think it would be awesome to have people, they could have 2 meetings or then come back later.
So, and I love that we had talked that it's a conversation, so I'm proud and honored to be conversation 1, and when you're a co-host, it would be conversation, you'll continue a numbering as podcasts do, I think, so I would highly recommend that you get in touch with the badgirlsashland@gmail.com, and I think that will be showing up if it's on WACA to be a co-host. I strongly encourage it.
Yeah, and I love the idea of just having a conversation like you might have in your kitchen or on the telephone, and I'm a real advocate of in person somehow, even if it's the phone. To me, that's still semi in person. You know, the internet's great, but I feel people need to be talking together and conversing and just expressing themselves.
At the Information Parlor.
Right. Oh, did we?
You did mention that.
Okay,
but
yeah. I just want to reiterate that this is an information parlor where we're going to share what we find and share it with each other. So, I want to thank everybody for listening to the first conversation of the Bad Girls Guide to Town Government. And we will see you probably in another 2 or
before town
meeting. We're going to have another conversation. And thank you
Thank
Thank
you.
you, WACA-TV too.